Imagine a world where the sun rises over a horizon of thick black smoke and the ticking of a clock sounds like a hammer on a coffin. We have officially reached day 37 of the most explosive conflict of our modern era as the United States and Israel face off against Iran. The atmosphere is thick with the scent of jet fuel and the terrifying silence of a world waiting for a single spark to ignite total global chaos. Today, the stakes have shifted from strategic maneuvers to a raw, visceral fight for survival that is tearing through the very heart of the Middle East. President Donald Trump has just laid down a final, bone-chilling ultimatum that has the entire world staring at their screens in a state of absolute shock. He has given the Iranian regime a hard deadline to open the Strait of Hormuz or face the complete destruction of their national infrastructure. This isn't just another political threat. It is a promise of fire and steel that could plunge millions of people into a dark pre-industrial age. Tehran has not flinched, responding with a level of defiance that suggests they are prepared to go down in a blaze of glory rather than surrender. Before we go any further into this unfolding nightmare, I need you to hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications right now. We are working around the clock to bring you the most accurate and thrilling updates from a front line that is changing every single hour. Your support is the only thing that keeps this channel independent and capable of telling the stories that the mainstream media is too afraid to touch. Drop a comment below with the word peace if you want this madness to end, or let us know if you think the deadline is the only way out. The deadline is set for Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, a moment that is being described by military analysts as the literal point of no return. President Trump took to social media to declare that if the shipping lanes remain blocked, the United States will begin raids on every power plant and bridge in Iran. He has framed this as a final warning, claiming that he has already shown immense patience by extending the timeline multiple times over the past week. However, the Iranian leadership has dismissed his words as the desperate ramblings of a man who does not understand the resolve of the Persian people. On the ground, the cost of this high-stakes poker game is being paid in blood and tears by civilians who have nowhere left to run. Over the last 24 hours, U.S. and Israeli airstrikes have intensified to a level we haven't seen since the very first day of the invasion. At least 34 people have been confirmed dead across Iran, including 6 children whose lives were cut short in a flash of heat and falling concrete. From the bustling streets of Tehran to the remote villages of the interior, the sound of air raid sirens has become the only music people hear. Another university was hit today, marking yet another center of learning that has been transformed into a smoking graveyard of books and shattered dreams. The images coming out of the site are haunting, showing students searching through the rubble for their friends while drones buzz ominously overhead like mechanical vultures. It is a grim reminder that in the game of empires, it is always the innocent who suffer the most, while the powerful sit in their bunkers. The scale of the devastation is increasing so rapidly that even seasoned war correspondents are struggling to keep up with the mounting casualty lists. But the Iranian military is far from defeated, and they have proven today that they still possess a lethal reach that can touch the heart of Israel. In the northern port city of Haifa, 2 people were tragically killed when an Iranian projectile managed to pierce through the most advanced air defense system in the world. The impact was sudden and devastating, turning a quiet residential street into a scene of fire, twisted metal, and the screams of the wounded. This successful strike has sent a wave of fear through the Israeli public, proving that no one is truly safe as long as this war continues. What happened next in the southern part of the country will surprise you, as it reveals just how thin the line is between interception and catastrophe. The Israeli military reported that they intercepted several massive Iranian ballistic missiles that were specifically targeting critical infrastructure in the southern desert regions. These weren't just standard rockets. They were sophisticated weapons designed to bypass radar and strike with enough force to level entire city blocks. The night sky over the Negev was filled with the blinding flashes of the aero defense system meeting its targets in the upper atmosphere. While the missiles fly overhead, a different kind of horror is unfolding within the borders of Iran as the regime tightens its grip on its own people. State media confirmed the execution of a man named Ali Fahim, who was accused of attacking a sensitive military site during the internal unrest that has gripped the nation. This marks the latest execution in just a matter of days, sending a clear and terrifying message to anyone who might consider dissent. The government is using the cover of war to settle old scores and ensure that the population remains paralyzed by fear while the bombs fall. The Strait of Hormuz remains the ultimate prize and the ultimate trigger for a conflict that is rapidly spiraling out of everyone's control. This narrow waterway is the jugular vein of the global economy, and with it closed, the price of oil is threatening to bankrupt nations half a world away. Trump's demand to open the gates is about more than just energy. It is about reestablishing a world order that Iran is determined to tear down. If the Tuesday deadline passes without the Iranian Navy stepping aside, we are looking at an aerial campaign the likes of which the world has never seen. The tension in Washington is palpable, with reports emerging that the Pentagon has already finalized the target lists for the upcoming raids on Iranian infrastructure. These plans include the systematic destruction of the Iranian electrical grid, which would leave millions of people without light, heat, or the ability to pump clean water. It is a strategy of total pressure designed to break the will of the regime by making the lives of ordinary citizens completely unbearable. But wait till you hear this part. Iranian commanders have stated they have surprises waiting for any American pilot who enters their airspace. In the hallways of the United Nations, diplomats are frantically trying to broker a last-minute deal, but the rhetoric on both sides has become too toxic for compromise. The Israeli government has signaled that they are fully prepared to support the U.S. deadline with their own fleet of F-35 stealth fighters and long-range drones. Prime Minister Netanyahu has stated that the Iranian octopus must be decapitated before it can launch a final desperate strike against the Jewish state. This alignment of U.S. and Israeli military might is perhaps the most formidable force ever assembled for a single theater of war. The human stories coming out of the conflict zones are beginning to paint a picture of a region that is losing its collective mind to the drumbeat of battle. In Tehran, families are reportedly camping out in the subway systems, using the deep tunnels as makeshift bomb shelters to escape the nightly rain of precision munitions. Food and medicine are becoming scarce as the blockade of Iran takes its toll, leading to bread lines that stretch for miles under the scorching sun. Yet even in the face of such hardship, the state-run media continues to broadcast messages of defiance and nationalistic fervor. As we move toward the final hours of the Trump deadline, the movement of naval assets in the Persian Gulf has reached a fever pitch of activity. Carrier strike groups are positioning themselves just off the coast, their decks crowded with aircraft fueled and armed for the first wave of strikes. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard has responded by deploying hundreds of fast attack boats and sea mines, turning the strait into a literal minefield of potential escalation. One wrong move by a nervous young sailor on either side could be the Archduke Ferdinand moment that triggers a global conflagration. The world's eyes are now fixed on the clock, watching the seconds tick away toward a Tuesday that will either bring a miracle or a massacre. We have seen 37 days of escalating violence, but nothing we have witnessed so far compares to the sheer scale of what is being threatened for tomorrow. The air is heavy with the weight of history, and the ghost of past wars seems to be whispering a warning that no one is willing to heed. You have to wonder if the leaders making these decisions have any idea of the Pandora's box they are about to kick wide open. But there is a twist in this story that many people are overlooking in their fear of the immediate military strikes and the falling bombs. Some analysts believe that the deadline is an elaborate psychological operation designed to trigger a coup within the Iranian military establishment before the first shot is even fired. By targeting infrastructure like power plants and bridges, the U.S. is signaling to the Iranian generals that their country will be destroyed if they continue to follow the regime. It is a high-stakes gamble that relies on the hope that someone in Tehran will value their country's survival over their ideological purity. As we wrap up today's briefing, the smoke over Haifa and the sirens in Tehran serve as a grim prologue to the events that are about to unfold. The 34 people who died today are just the beginning, if the Tuesday deadline is met with the sound of roaring jet engines instead of opening gates. We are living through a moment that will be studied by future generations, if there are any left to study it, as the day the world stood on the edge. Make sure you are here with us tomorrow, because the update we bring you then might be the most important news of your entire life. Remember to like this video if you found it informative, and share it with everyone you know who needs to understand the gravity of this situation. The more people who are aware of the truth, the harder it becomes for the warmongers to operate in the shadows of misinformation and propaganda. We will continue to monitor the satellites, the wire services, and our contacts on the ground to give you the raw, unfiltered reality of this war. Stay alert, stay prepared, and most importantly, stay tuned to this channel for the next chapter of Day 38. The horizon is glowing with a light that isn't the sun, and the wind is carrying the sound of distant thunder that has nothing to do with the weather. We are on the precipice of a new and terrifying era, and the only thing we can do is watch, wait, and hope for a reason to prevail. This has been your comprehensive update on the U.S.-Israel versus Iran war, a conflict that is redefining the meaning of the word escalation. Thank you for trusting us with your time and your attention during these dark and uncertain days of our shared human history. As the final seconds of this update count down, take a moment to think about the people in the crosshairs tonight, regardless of what flag they happen to live under. War is a monster that eats everyone it touches, and right now that monster is hungrier than it has been in a very long time. Keep your eyes on the Strait of Hormuz and your ears open for the sound of the Tuesday deadline passing into the history books. We will be right here to tell you what happened next, no matter how surprising or terrifying the truth might be. Goodbye for now, and may we all find a way to see the dawn of a more peaceful Wednesday morning together. The sky over the Middle East has turned a bruised electric purple as the world enters the 37th day of a war that refuses to sleep. We are standing at the absolute precipice of a global catastrophe, watching a high-stakes game of chicken between superpowers where the loser isn't just a government, but perhaps civilization itself. The tension is so thick you can practically feel the hum of the fighter jets idling on the runways from Washington to Tel Aviv. This is no longer a localized conflict. It is a tectonic shift in the world order, and the ground beneath our feet is beginning to crack in ways we never thought possible. President Donald Trump has just shattered the diplomatic silence with a final expletive-laden ultimatum that has sent shockwaves through every capital city on the planet. Using his preferred megaphone of social media, he has set a hard Tuesday deadline for Tehran to open the Strait of Hormuz or face total infrastructure collapse. He didn't mince words, calling the Iranian leadership crazy and promising that Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day across the entire country. The message was crystal clear: open the world's most vital oil artery or prepare to be plunged back into the dark ages by the most powerful military force in history. The Iranian response to this ultimatum was as defiant as it was chilling, with Culture Minister Syed Reza Salehi Amiri calling the American president an unstable and delusional figure. Tehran has made it clear that the Strait of Hormuz remains closed to its enemies and that any attack on their soil will be met with a hell of its own making. This isn't just rhetoric anymore. It's a collision course between an unstoppable force and an immovable object. As the clock ticks toward that Tuesday deadline, the international community is watching with a mixture of horror and helplessness as the diplomacy of the last decade evaporates in real time. On the streets of Iran, the human cost of this geopolitical chess match is being written in blood and broken concrete. And over the last 24 hours, a relentless wave of U.S. and Israeli airstrikes has claimed the lives of at least 34 people across multiple provinces. Among the dead are at least 6 children, innocent lives caught in a crossfire of ideologies and power struggles they could never hope to understand. These aren't just statistics. They are families destroyed, dreams extinguished, and a generation of trauma being forged in the heat of the explosions. The targeting has become increasingly aggressive, with a university in Tehran being the latest civilian institution to be reduced to a smoking ruin. The Sharif University of Technology, a place once filled with the brightest minds of a nation, is now a graveyard of textbooks and twisted rebar. Images of students pulling their classmates from the rubble have gone viral, serving as a haunting testament to the brutality of modern urban warfare. But wait till you hear this part. Despite the heavy bombardment, the Iranian regime is doubling down on its internal crackdowns to maintain absolute control. In a move that has horrified human rights organizations, Iran executed another man today named Ali Fahim for an alleged attack on a military site earlier this year. This marks the 4th execution in just a few days, signaling a desperate attempt by the government to silence any internal dissent during the war. They are fighting a war on 2 fronts. One against the most advanced militaries in the world and another against their own disillusioned population. It's a pressure cooker environment where the slightest sign of weakness could lead to a total collapse of the state's authority. But the Iranian military is not just taking hits. They are swinging back with a lethal precision that has stunned the Israeli defense establishment. In the northern port city of Haifa, 2 people were confirmed dead after an Iranian ballistic missile managed to find a gap in the world's most sophisticated air defense net. The missile struck a residential building with such force that several floors collapsed instantly, trapping elderly residents and children under tons of debris. Rescue teams have been working through the night, their flashlights cutting through the dust as they search for signs of life in the wreckage. This strike on Haifa has broken the illusion of absolute safety that many in Israel had felt behind the shield of the Iron Dome and arrow systems. One resident described the impact as a crazy boom that felt like the earth itself was splitting open under the weight of the warhead. While the Israeli military claims to have intercepted the vast majority of incoming threats, the few that get through are causing a disproportionate amount of terror. It is a grim reminder that in the age of hypersonic weapons and saturation attacks, no defense is ever truly 100% effective. Meanwhile, in the southern desert of the Negev, the sky turned into a battlefield as Israeli interceptors chased down a barrage of Iranian missiles. One of these projectiles managed to strike an industrial factory, igniting a massive fire that sent plumes of toxic black smoke billowing into the desert air. The sirens in cities like Beersheba and Arad have become a constant, haunting soundtrack for a population living in reinforced rooms and underground bunkers. Each siren is a reminder that the reach of Tehran is long, and their willingness to escalate is seemingly limitless as the deadline approaches. The global economy is also feeling the strangulation of the Strait of Hormuz blockade, with oil prices opening today at over $110 a barrel. This narrow strip of water handles 20% of the world's oil, and its closure is a knife to the throat of the international financial system. Trump's Bridge Day threat is a direct response to this economic warfare, an attempt to use physical destruction to break an economic stranglehold. But the danger is that by destroying Iran's bridges and power plants, the U.S. might trigger a total regional collapse that no one can contain. In a surprising twist, reports have emerged of a daring U.S. rescue operation deep inside the rugged mountains of Iran. 2 U.S. officials confirmed that an airman whose F-15 jet was downed by Iranian air defenses on Friday has been successfully recovered by special operations teams. Trump praised the amazing show of bravery required to pull a wounded officer out from behind enemy lines while under constant threat of capture. This rescue mission adds a cinematic layer of intensity to the conflict, highlighting the incredible risks being taken by pilots flying into the teeth of Iran's integrated defense network. As the Tuesday deadline looms, the rhetoric coming out of the Pentagon suggests that the target lists have already been uploaded to the onboard computers of the B-2 stealth bombers. The plan involves a systematic decapitation of the Iranian electrical grid, which would effectively paralyze the nation's ability to coordinate military movements or maintain basic services. It is a strategy of maximum pressure taken to its ultimate violent conclusion, designed to force a regime change or a total surrender. But what happens next will surprise you, as Iranian commanders have hinted at asymmetric responses that could target U.S. interests thousands of miles away. There is a growing fear that if the power plant day strikes go forward, Iran will retaliate by targeting desalination plants in the Gulf, cutting off drinking water for millions in neighboring countries. This would transform a bilateral war into a humanitarian catastrophe of biblical proportions, affecting millions of people who have nothing to do with the conflict. The regional powers like Kuwait and the UAE have already activated their air defenses, bracing for the possibility of being caught in the crossfire of a collapsing regional order. We are watching the dominoes of the Middle East begin to wobble, and the first one is scheduled to fall on Tuesday. Inside the halls of the United Nations, the atmosphere is one of profound despair, as diplomats admit that the window for a peaceful resolution is almost completely shut. The good chance of a deal that Trump mentioned just 24 hours ago seems to have been replaced by a grim preparation for the inevitable. The Israeli defense officials are reportedly just waiting for the final go signal from Washington to launch their own wave of strikes against Iranian energy facilities. It is a coordinated pincer movement designed to break the back of the Islamic Republic once and for all, but at a cost that is currently uncalculable. The narrative of this war is being written in the smoke of burning factories and the screams of people trapped in the rubble of Haifa and Tehran. It is a story of old rivalries, modern technology, and the terrifying speed at which human civilization can descend into primitive violence. We are on day 37, and the thrilling aspect of this conflict is rapidly being overtaken by the chilling reality of its consequences. Every headline, every missile launch, and every execution is a step further down a path that leads to a place from which there may be no return. The world is currently a powder keg, and Donald Trump is standing over it with a Tuesday-dated match, while the Iranian leadership holds the fuse. We have seen the destruction of universities, the execution of dissidents, and the death of children, yet the appetite for escalation seems only to grow. The Strait of Hormuz has become more than a geographical location. It is the symbol of a global chokehold that is squeezing the life out of the old world order. Whether it opens by choice or by force, the world that emerges on the other side will be fundamentally different from the one we knew just 5 weeks ago. As we move toward the climax of this 37-day odyssey, the focus remains on that narrow strip of water and the deadline that stands between peace and total war. The power plant day and bridge day threats are the final markers on a highway to hell that both sides seem determined to travel at full speed. We must ask ourselves what kind of world we are building when the destruction of a nation's infrastructure is framed as a diplomatic tool. The answer to that question will likely be found in the ashes of the coming week, as the ultimate deadline finally reaches zero. Thank you for staying with us through this deep dive into the most dangerous moment in recent history. Make sure you are subscribed and your notifications are on because we will be live streaming the final countdown to the Tuesday deadline as it happens. Share this video with everyone who needs to see past the propaganda and understand the true human cost of this escalation. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Is this the end of the line for the Iranian regime, or is the U.S. walking into a trap of its own making? Stay safe, stay informed, and we will see you in the next emergency update. As the sun sets on day 37, the fires in the Negev and the wreckage in Haifa are still smoldering, serving as a dark prologue for what is to come. The 34 victims of today's strikes are being buried under a sky that is once again filled with the sound of approaching engines. The world is waiting, the clock is ticking, and the gates of the Strait of Hormuz remain firmly shut as the shadow of Power Plant Day grows longer. This is the moment where history is made, not in the quiet halls of libraries, but in the thunder of explosions and the silent prayers of a terrified world. Remember, the power of a story is not just in the telling, but in the understanding of its deeper implications. As we navigate the complexities of this 2026 conflict, let us not lose sight of our shared humanity. The headlines may be filled with talk of power plants and bridges, but behind every target is a community of people. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the latest developments in this fast-moving and unpredictable global crisis. Goodbye for now, and stay vigilant in these uncertain times that are testing us all.